So today we will build a looping setup in the grid, perfect for creating ambient textures. As always, I added also the ideas from this video to the PDF of tips and tricks I keep on updating. It's available on my Patreon, together with the project file from this video and from many other videos. Here I have a simple voice with a polymer that I can play with my keyboard. It has a bit of reverb on it. Right, and we will build this setup in the FX grid. Now the basic idea here is to build a multitap delay. So we will use 4 long delay modules, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you can experiment with synced looping, but in this case I will set them all 2 seconds. Now the input will go to the first delay, and then I will cascade them down. So the first delay or the first tap will go to the second tap, the second to the third, and the third to the fourth. And now we will need to mix the taps. So I will use a mixer, and then we have the first tap, second, third, and the last one. Maybe I will pan the first and second taps a bit left and right. I will set the overall mix here on the FX grid itself to 50% more or less, just so we get also the dry signal. And already we get a multi-tap delay, so we'll hear once the original signal and then the 4 taps. Right? Now I would like to process the first 3 taps and have them pitch shifted. So I will use for each the pitch shifter module, but only for the output signal, not for the signal that goes through the taps. So I will use the pitch shifter for the first 3 taps, maybe have some space here. Right, so this is the first tap, then the second one, and then the third. I still want to have the original signal in there unprocessed, so that's why I don't process the audio also between the taps. Now the first pitch shifter will be an octave up, so it will be 12 semitones up. The second one will be 7 semitones up, which is a perfect fifth. And then the third one will be -12, which is an octave down. And again, this can give us a nice texture. Now I just want to have the pitch shifter a bit more granular, so I will take the grain rate all the way down on all 3 of them. And now we already get something a bit more interesting, right? I will play just 1 note. Right, this was just 1 note. Right, and with something a bit more complex, it's even more interesting. Now, before we add feedback and actually make this loop, I would like to add a few more things. So first of all, I would like to have a high-pass filter on the input so we can attenuate some of the lower frequencies. So I will just use this relatively simple high-pass and take it to about, let's say, 150. I would also like to add some texture with noise. And in this case, we will use, let me zoom in a bit, stereo pink noise. So it's a bit more crunchy, and we will use this to modulate the levels on the mixer, again, just to add a bit of texture. So let me take this here, for example, and I will use the modulator out module, so we can use the noise for modulation, and just modulate the levels here on the mixer just a tiny bit, maybe 0.05, let's say something like this. Again, just to add a tiny bit of texture to everything, you will see soon enough. Let's listen to this. Right, you hear now it's a bit more noisy. Very nice. Now another thing I would like to add is a bit of diffusion. So at the end of the chain, I will add 2 all-pass delay modules in serial, right, one after the other. I will change their delay time a bit. So maybe this can be, let's say, around 120, and this can be around 150. And then add modulation to the delay time, random modulation with 2 sample and hold LFO modules. Right, 1 and 2, I will set them to be totally smooth. Get rid of the trigger or re-trigger so we don't get any clicks. Set them to be in hertz and maybe around 1.5. They can be different from one another. I will also set them to be bipolar, so they will modulate the delay time up and down. And then one will modulate just, again, a tiny bit, maybe by 3 milliseconds, the first one, and the second one will modulate the second all-pass delay here. And now we should get also a nice detune effect. Right? And now let's add feedback so we actually get a looper. For this, we will send the input first through a mixer after the high-pass filter here. And then the last tap, right, the last long delay here will go back to the mixer. Now we could also use the pitch-shifted versions, but then with each loop they will transpose again and again. That's not what I want. So I just use the original signal from the last tap to go back to this chain. And now if we leave the volume here on 0 dB, it will just continue looping. Right now it will just continue looping over and over. Now if I want to remove the feedback, I can just mute this channel and then it will decay down. Right, so we don't get any feedback anymore. Now the fun thing is we can also set different times for each long delay and get even a sort of a rhythm, right? The long delay will go up to, I believe, 8 seconds, right? So you can have also a longer looper. But let's say that the first one will stay with 1 second, the second one will be between 2 and 3. Then we will go something a bit shorter, maybe around 500 milliseconds, and then between 3 and 4 seconds. Right, again, activate the feedback and let's loop again something else. Right, and we have our looping setup. Simple, yet effective, right? It's not a big patch, but it's very nice for textures. By the way, if you want to start and stop the audio with a clip, for example, you can use, under math, we have the multiply module, right? Use this at the end of the chain. Right, and now it will wait for another input in the lower input here. And in this case, we can use the gate in, right? And then with the clip, if I draw here a clip, right, it will wait for a note from here. So now, only together with this clip, actually the sound will come out from this looper. So if I stop this clip, right, we get no sound. So if this is something you want to do, just use the multiply module. Right, of course this will not be saved with your project, so you will have to record this if you want to save the audio. I really recommend recording this and processing the recording with a sampler, for example, just like I did here. Right, I recorded a short clip or a few seconds and then loaded it into the sampler, and now the sampler is playing it in this texture mode. I have 3 playheads with voice stacking. Right, it will play also forward and reverse. Let me just start this. Right, so again, we added another texture upon this texture already from the looper. Right, but that was it for today. I will add more voices to this. Thank you for watching. Cheers.